If we did it to homophobes, they would freak out over it. This episode is sponsored by PBRmerchstore.com, where you can find awesome new stickers, mugs, and t-shirts, and much more, all available for a limited time over on PBRmerchstore.com, so go check it out now. Every year, we hear homophobic, transphobic, biphobic, and aphobic people trashing the LGBTQ community, because we simply want to live freely and love whoever we were meant to love. But what if we reverse the situation, and we started doing the same thing they constantly do to us, and we did it to them? Homophobes say they should be allowed to treat us however they like, because they have a right to their own opinion, and we just have to put up with it. But what if the shoe was on the other foot? Would they simply let it go, or would they be fighting back too? So recently, we asked our audience to name something that homophobic or transphobic people do to the LGBTQ that if we did the same thing to them, they would freak out over it. And you answered in spades. So here are the top 50 ways homophobes are hypocrites. If we said straight people should be lined up and shot in the back of the head just for being straight, homophobes would call us terrorists. But somehow Steadfast Community Church is able to do it with no harm. If we all got together in the back of a truck with assault weapons and tried going to a straight pride event to murder thousands of straight people, we would certainly get more than 2 days in jail, like the Proud Boys hate group got when they tried murdering LGBTQ people at a pride event and failed to do so. Making laws saying straight people aren't real people and making them out to be less than human. Constantly calling them pedophiles, abominations, and every vile thing they can come up with. Asking invasive questions about their genitalia and sexual preferences. Saying, quote, maybe you just haven't found the right person yet. Or saying, well, maybe you just need to pick a side. Questioning the idea that they are straight and saying, quote, maybe you aren't straight at all. Calling them a sinner for having premarital sex because homophobes love saying being gay is a sin, even though it is clearly not a sin in any major religion of the world if you read the original scripture yourself. If we condemn them for sleeping around with multiple partners, because straight guys are praised for having as many women to sleep with as possible, but gay men are criticized for doing the same. If we call them by the wrong pronouns or name all the time, they would certainly freak out. Committing hate crimes against them would be pretty high up on the list of hypocrisies. Nowadays, over 16.7% of hate crimes are committed against LGBTQ people, and many hate crimes aren't even reported, and some states in the United States don't allow hate crimes against LGBTQ people to be reported to the FBI at all. So if we did it to them, they would freak out. Straight people sometimes get mad when gay individuals look at them or check them out, but if we got offended at straight people checking us out, we'd be condemned. If we kept telling them, quote, how do you know that you're not gay if you never tried it? If we condemn them for grooming our kids and trying to force all children to be straight, just like they condemn us and say we're grooming kids for simply teaching what gay or transgender words mean, something tells me they would freak out over it. Saying God can fix you, or saying you're straying away from God for being straight. If we dared to say that straight people are just straight because it's trendy or something they're doing so they can get attention, homophobes would freak out. If we said it was a disease to be straight or a disease to be cisgender, they would riot in the streets. Telling them that they needed to keep their name their parents gave them when they got married or wanted to change it, they wouldn't be too happy. If we casually threatened to undermine all straight marriages on a federal level and said straight marriages were no longer allowed in any country, they would certainly have something to say, and courts would be protested for years until it was changed back. If we dared to say that they weren't allowed to celebrate being straight anymore and straight pride was banned, they would freak out. If we tried to ban all books that mentioned straight couples in all libraries or schools, they would certainly have something to say to us. When straight people kiss in public, if we yelled at them, just like they yell at gay or transgender people for kissing in public, they would freak out too. If we tried to push all straight people through conversion therapy and forced them to be gay, electrocuted them while watching straight pornography, or gave them a lobotomy, trying to get the straight feelings out of their heads, they would certainly not be too happy with it. If we took away their right to marry one another, then invited them to our wedding and forced them to feel jealous that we have the right to marry, but they don't, homophobes would freak out. They usually tell us that they hate the sin, not the sinner. But if we said that to them, or said we hate the belief, not the believer, they would freak out too. If we saw them in a straight relationship and we constantly talked about the person they are dating, going out of our way to call them just a friend or a roommate, or invalidate their relationship at all, they would freak out. Straight people constantly ask young kids if they have a girlfriend or a boyfriend yet. But if we asked a boy if he had a boyfriend yet, or a girl if she has a girlfriend yet, they would freak out and call us groomers. Better yet, if we told them that they are too young to know they are straight or cisgender, they would not be too happy. If we constantly asked them why they flaunt their sexual orientation or gender identity in our faces, they would freak out. If we told girls, "Wow, you look just like a real girl," or told boys, "Wow, it's almost like you could pass for a real boy." If we banned their right to decent health care, if we called them slurs like breeders or groomers, it would finally make them realize that calling us slurs actually hurts, and something tells me they wouldn't like it too much. Saying, quote, "You're too handsome or pretty to be straight," forcing them to stop outside of a public restroom to check inside of their pants to make sure what genitalia they have before going inside. If we noticed a straight pride flag or country's flag in front of their house and asked them to take it down because we didn't want them to indoctrinate our kids, they would freak out and leave the flag up anyway. If we called for a movie to be banned from our country because it simply includes a straight couple kissing in one of the scenes, and said it pushes an agenda, and said, "Think about the children," they would freak out and still show our movie. Saying you can't be a boy or you can't be a girl because gender doesn't exist. Saying that name doesn't even suit you, you don't look like a blank, and insert name here. If we tried to ban life-saving surgeries or medications from cisgender people, just like transphobic people try to ban life-saving surgeries and medications from transgender people, there would be riots in the street. If we said, "Okay, but you know and I know that cisgender men are biologically female," if straight people had to fear coming out of the closet as straight to their parents because they might be kicked out of their homes for being straight or bringing a heterosexual partner home, they wouldn't be too happy. Saying being straight isn't a sin, but living a straight lifestyle is a sin, if we constantly referred to them as he, she, it, they would be quite upset. If we asked them, "Why do you need a holiday for all of your sinful lifestyle choices anyway?" If we murdered them just for holding hands with their heterosexual partner walking down the street. If we murdered them for asking us out. After all, we're gay and that means we're better than they are, right? Making fun of them in school years and using the word straight as an insult against them. Or using straight as an insult against anyone who looks weak or appears that way. If we call them pedophiles every time someone speaks on social media, or calling the cops on them if they dare try talking about straight marriage on a public forum. If we could make up facts with no evidence to back our claims that all straight people were bad, they would certainly call us out for it and accuse us of slander. But when homophobes do it to us, we're somehow bad people. If we pushed straight people to suicide, just like homophobes push LGBTQ people to suicide every single day, especially in younger generations, we would be charged with a crime. But somehow homophobic and transphobic people are allowed to do it without any criminal or civil charges. If we denied them service from our cake business for their straight weddings or any business at all, and actually took our court cases all the way to the Supreme Court just in case a straight couple wanted to hire us someday, they wouldn't be too happy either. Maybe if their love and their gender and who they are and who they marry were debated on a daily basis in courtrooms and in legislative rooms across the country, maybe then they would finally understand these things should not be debated at all. These are human rights. Our point is that the people who hate us are hypocritical to their core. If we did half of the things they do to us every single day, they would freak out, riot in the streets, and they would protest until lawmakers changed it. But all 50 of these things I mentioned are things homophobic, transphobic, biphobic, and aphobic people do to LGBTQ people every single day without any repercussions. Then they wonder why we are peacefully protesting, why we celebrate pride events, why we push for marriage equality, why we want hate crime laws to reflect anti-LGBTQ discrimination, and why we want equal protection under the law in every country. It sometimes baffles my mind how these people will rant and rave for hours without realizing that if the shoe was on the other foot, they would be just as angry, if not more so. But these are just 50 of the ways they are hypocritical. So if you think of any other ways they can be hypocrites, leave them in the comments down below, and we might do a part 2 to this episode in the future. Anyway, if you want to learn more about the LGBTQ community, check out this episode right here, or subscribe for weekly episodes. And if you like what we do and want some awesome merch, go to pbrmerchstore.com. As always, I'm your host, Professor Pride. Have a gay day, everyone, and bye for now.